If you've listened to Brewlosophy at all, you know how much we love Imperial Yeast. The company was founded on the ideal that if you're going to do something, do it right. From their Imperial Pitch-Right pouches, packing a whopping 200 billion cells of healthy and viable yeast in each pouch, to their commitment to commercial customers, guaranteeing 10 of their most popular strains are in stock for orders up to 20 liters, or the shipping is free, Imperial Yeast does it right. No more worrying about whether you need to make a starter or propagate your yeast prior to pitching. Imperial Yeast makes it easy for the home brewer and commercial brewer to obtain direct pitches at proper rates when you need it. To place a commercial order or to get more information about everything that Imperial Yeast has to offer, head on over to imperialyeast.com. Welcome to the Brew Lab. I've said many times that one of my favorite things about the brewing industry is the amount of innovation that comes out of making beer. And of course, innovation isn't coming just from brewers, it's also coming from ingredient suppliers like hop distributor John I. Haas. I'm your host, Cade Job. Today I'm in the lab speaking with Jeff Dailey and Shaelyn Maloney about a new hop product made by John I. Haas called HopKick. Now, by now, you've surely heard of liquid hop extracts, which serve a variety of brewing purposes like adding concentrated alpha acids, adding whirlpool aroma, dry hop aroma, kettle hop aroma, or even adding a stable haze to your hazy IPA and so much more. The benefits are getting the same great hop flavor, but not having all that vegetal material in your beer, improving efficiency and improving batch-to-batch consistency. But up to this point, those extracts have been CO2 based, which come with a few challenges in that they're sometimes sticky and a little bit difficult to deal with because of that CO2 extraction process. They sometimes sit on top of the beer. Also, if you're trying to use them in an alternative product like hop water or non-alcoholic beers, they may require some more trial and error and may not be able to be used at all. So HopKick is a new product that's water-based, and as John I. Haas says, it's completely soluble in cold-side beverage operations. Now, I'll save it for Shay and Jeff to share the other benefits and advantages and tell you more about the product, but one of the coolest benefits is using it in non-beer applications like hop water, lemonades, teas, kombuchas, and other beer-adjacent beverages. So I hope you enjoy the episode. If you haven't yet signed up to become a patron, please consider doing so. By becoming a patron of Brewlosophy, you do get awesome rewards like access to Brewlosophy contributor recipes, new discounts each month to YakimaValleyHops.com, and for $3 a month, access to a monthly live Q&A session with a special guest from the brewing industry. Once you've contributed at that $3 level or higher, you get access to the private Patreon Facebook page where all of the previous Q&A sessions are available to watch. We've got guests like Vinny Chilurzo, John Palmer, the Brewlosopher himself, Marshall Schott, and this month's guest is Brew Club founding member Haven Schultz. If you haven't heard of the Brew Club, you should check it out on Facebook. It's a non-geographic homebrew club where anyone that's a fan of homebrewing can join. Haven will answer questions about the Brew Club and, of course, any other questions you've got for him that you want to ask during the Q&A. All the information that you need to get access to this awesome resource is available at patreon.com/brewlosophy. Hey, I want to pause again and say another big thank you to everyone who's left a rating or review of the show. Those ratings are really meaningful. I care immensely about how you like the show, and this is one of the easiest ways for me to hear you. Every review helps us improve the show, and like with the Applying the Science episodes, which wouldn't have happened if not for listener reviews. So if you haven't yet left a rating or review, please take a moment to help us out. All right, feedback this week is from listener Whiskey Will from New Jersey, who asks, "Hey, Cade, I just wanted to give a shout out and say thank you for your nerdy-ass take on brewing. Even though most of it is way over my head," he says, "my doctorate is in English, so I'm more gooder at that. I really do enjoy listening and trying to understand the sciencey stuff. My husband is a science teacher, so the irony is not lost on me. Anyhow, I usually converse with Marshall. I'm sure he'll roll his eyes if you mention my name, but I was just reading an article that seemed to be more of your forte. In the latest issue of Beer and Brewing magazine, I was reading an article about IPA, specifically hazies. What I found interesting was the mention of two types of haze, A and B. I know you've had Dr. Laura Burns on the show before, but I don't remember if that was ever referenced. In context of the article, it was in conjunction with Grimm Brewing in Brooklyn. He says, I live in New Jersey, but we do venture to the big scary city to go to breweries like Grimm, Finback, KCBC, and Other Half to get our hazy on when feeling it. I don't know if maybe I've missed an episode where hazies A and B were referenced, or if this is a future idea, or if I'm in a dream within a dream. Just would love to hear your thoughts on the whole A-B hazy situation. Thanks a million for all you do, and keep your nerd on so people like myself can always feel humbled. Cheers and all the best. Cheese whiskey. Well, I hope you're not too humbled. I hope it's not too over your head what we're talking about here. If not, I'll try to make it a little bit easier. But I did reach out to Laura Burns to get her response on the two types of hazes, and here's her response. She says what Joe Grimm has found experimenting with different approaches to making hazy IPAs is that he finds there are type A and type B hazes. The type A haze he sees as mainly malt/hop driven, where oat, wheat, and dry hop are used to force haze. The type B haze is coming from the interaction of yeast and a late dry hop, which is what we've been studying here at Omega. When we assay for yeast-derived haze, we use a simple experimental setup with wort made from 100% barley-based malt, a haze-positive yeast, and 2 pounds per barrel dry hop at terminal Plato. The haze coming from this simple recipe with a haze-positive yeast is greater than 500 NTUs, or orange juice levels of turbidity, versus a haze-neutral yeast that would be less than 200 NTUs. Joe has been shifting recipes to maximize the type B haze because he finds this approach tends to have less astringency or hop burn and is equally impactful visually. Hope this helps. So yeah, Will, thanks for the question, and thanks Laura for the answer. So yeah, it sounds like there are two types of hazes: the malt hop driven haze, which is like oat, wheat, and dry hop interactions, and then a yeast derived haze, which is yeast and a late dry hop. So cool. That's awesome to think about haze in those two ways. So thanks, Whiskey Will, for the question, and of course Laura for the answer. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes with Shaelyn Maloney and Jeff Dailey talking about the new water-based hop extract, HopKick. The dry yeast revolution is here, and Cellar Science is leading the charge. Cellar Science has expanded the world of dry yeast far beyond the drab landscape of yesteryear. With over 20 strains of beer and wine yeast now available, you can brew any style. Not to mention that their unique growth and harvesting process greatly increases lipid levels in yeast cell walls, removing the need to aerate your wort on the first pitch and allowing you to directly pitch without rehydration. Couple that with the other advantages of dry yeast, such as higher cell count and viability, and you can clearly see why commercial breweries across the U.S. are using dry yeast and choosing Cellar Science.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We're proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music. And we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
What makes our communities special is the way people rally together to help each other during a crisis. And today, what more and more neighbors are fighting against is hunger. Too many of our fellow Georgians are struggling to put food on the table. That's why the Atlanta Community Food Bank unites 29 North Georgia counties to fight hunger. Please give what you can at acfb.org and help a neighbor in need today.
Every day, we rise, challenging ourselves to work for what we believe in. At U.S. Border Patrol, protecting our borders is more than a job. It's a calling. Agents answer the call, working together to keep our country and communities safe. If you're ready for a new mission, join U.S. Border Patrol and go beyond. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
With the increased popularity of hop-forward beers like IPAs and pale ales, there's been a drive to find new ways to get hop flavor into beer. To that end, there have been a lot of new liquid hop products that range from bittering to aroma and flavor, and even to maintain haze. Up to this point, those extracts have been CO2-based, but today I'm speaking with Jeff Dailey and Shaelyn Maloney from John I. Haas about a new water-based product that Haas calls HopKick. Jeff, welcome back to the Brew Lab.
Glad to be back as always, Cade.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you back as always. And Shay, welcome back as well.
Thank you. Glad to be here again.
Yeah. So about a year ago, Jeff and Shay were both guests on the podcast talking about liquid hop extracts. That was episode 102, which is hard to think that was already a full year ago. But at that point, we teased the release at the end of the show of an upcoming product that was water-based, and here it is. So we'll talk about the history behind this product in a bit. But first, I'll ask Jeff or Shay, or both of you, are you excited to see this product finally hit the market?
Yes, it was a long time coming. So it is very, very exciting to see it finally come to fruition.
Yeah, and I understand at CBC, you guys really showcased this product, right? You guys had a booth that was showcasing HopKick.
Yeah, it was part of our responsible mindful drinking booth. And so we did have a build your own sort of hop water situation with that, as well as our other newest product, Euphorics.
Ah, nice. Yeah. Oh, Euphorics too. I just saw the release about that one. All right. We're going to have to table that one and do another show on Euphorics. But we can weave it in a little bit here too, because I just saw that product released a couple of weeks ago. That's super cool. Or at least I just saw it a couple of weeks ago. Not that it was released a couple of weeks ago.
It was released a couple of weeks ago.
It was. Okay, good. All right. Excellent. So I see I am somewhat up to date on the product releases, but this is cool. All right, great. Well, I'm excited to talk about HopKick. And of course, Jeff, you are the sensory program manager at John I. Haas, and Shay, a brewing solutions specialist. Now, Jeff, it's been a little while since we actually talked about your background on the show. So you've been on several times, but let's remind listeners how you arrived as the sensory program manager at Haas.
Well, Cade, like you, it all started with the best of intentions of going and working in the legal industry. And obviously, we're both recovering from that circumstance.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah. I went to grad school focusing for my master's on food science and technology, looking at sensory. And the end intention was to get into the craft beer industry because I was tired of all of that legal stuff that we don't need to talk about anymore until you buy me a beer to talk about it. As soon as I came out of the program in 2019, a job opened up here at Haas to work as a sensory scientist under Victor Al-Ghazali, who'd been here since 2014, give or take. And when he left in the fall, I took over the program, and I've been here ever since, taking on in 2020 smoke taint, running a full sensory program through COVID, coming up with methods like Sensory Plus to produce Lupomax, all that fun stuff, and working on projects like HopKick with Shay here.
It's funny you said 2020 working on smoke taint, but I understand you're still working on that even today.
Oh, yes. Thank you for teasing for the next thing that we'll need to talk about. For everyone wondering, Cade and I we're going to have a great conversation in August in Minneapolis at the World Brewing Congress talking about smoke taint and new methods for detecting smoke taint and all the recent research going into understanding it better.
Yeah. I mean, that'll actually be great. So it'll be Jeff, Tiffany Petra, and also Daniel LePage from Creaser Comforts Brewing. We're going to talk about a new ASBC method to assess smoke taint in hops, and also, how breweries are dealing with it, and then also some of the history that led us up to it, and even share a little bit of the research that's going on at OSU on that. But that's smoke taint, and that's not today's topic. Today's topic is HopKick. And Shay, so I wanted to ask you, same question. How did you become brewing solutions specialist at Haas?
I got very lucky. So I was a brewer down in Bend, Oregon for 3 or 4 years. And then I actually left the brewing industry completely and moved back home to Colorado. And then a small thing called the pandemic happened. And after that was wrapping up, I realized that I really missed the industry, started looking for ways to find my way back, and actually came to interview with Jeff for a sensory position, and then stumbled into my current position at the same time. So that's kind of how I got here. I got here in December of 2021.
Nice. And tell me a little bit about what the Brewing Solution Specialist does for Haas.
Yeah, so our whole team, Brewing Solutions, does a lot of product development as well as applications development. And so as our R&D team comes up with new ideas and new products, we do a lot of work of making sure that we can use them, that they're useful to brewers, how to use them, dosing rates, the best place to add them in the process, all that sort of stuff. And then we also do a huge amount of technical support and educational outreach.
Nice. Well, I'm going to ask you all of those questions about HopKick today, so I hope you're ready for those. But on the last episode, we talked about liquid hop products like Flex, Kettle Ready, Incognito, Spectrum, etc. How are those products different than what we're talking about today, HopKick?
Yeah, so they're fundamentally different. I mean, they're all made from hops, but the processing and the way HopKick is made is different. And we really were targeting not exactly beer for HopKick. Its primary application is a little bit of more of the beyond beer, such as the hop waters, the teas, the seltzers, things like that. And so we wanted something specifically designed to be used in those types of products. However, its handily does work very well in NA beers as well.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I mean, these, like you said, they are fundamentally different. Those products are CO2 extract based, and this is a water based extraction. So I want to ask about that in a little bit. I want to talk about like how these are actually made. But, you know, so the liquid hop extracts like Flex, Kettle Ready, Incognito, those are used in, you know, traditional brewing processes like Flex early in the boil, Kettle Ready also in the boil, you know, Flex for bittering, Kettle Ready to provide a little bit of aroma as well, Incognito, Spectrum, Whirlpool, Dry Hop, all that sort of stuff. But is HopKick, you know, used the same way? I mean, I heard you just say you're, you know, targeting maybe some of the off beer space like hop water and such.
So HopKick is not. It's used on the cold side of things. So really dosing wise, you want to be adding it when you're near finish. So in the bright tank, right before packaging and kind of finalizing.
I see. Yeah. Cold side. All right. And we're going to dig into that a lot more as we get into the show. And one of the challenges with CO2 extracts, and I have a personal anecdote to share here, is the CO2 extract process makes those products really sticky. And they're easy to use. They're flowable, right? So which is great. And I have used them. I've used Flex and Incognito before. Even on a recent experiment that I did for OSU, we used Flex as the bittering component of it, which was really awesome. That's actually why we're having this episode, because I used Flex and it turned out really well. And I remembered that Jeff and I and Shay were supposed to talk about HopKick. And so I said, I've got to get him back on to talk about HopKick. So that's actually why we're doing this episode. But it was sticky, right? Flex is sticky. It sticks to everything. And you've got to use, you got to warm it up, and then you got to use some maybe some ethanol or something to rinse out the whatever beaker or flask or bucket or whatever you're using to add it into the beer. So does HopKick have those same challenges?
No, HopKick is about the consistency of water. So it is not sticky. It will, you could pour it on your hand and it'll just run off like water.
That's one of the critical differentiators between HopKick and those other products is those products inherently have a lot of alpha acid in them. So they are used one way or the other for providing flavor, but also providing bitterness to beer. Unlike those products, HopKick does not provide bitterness. It has zero alpha, has zero beta. And in fact, unlike those products that increase bitterness, HopKick can actually reduce bitterness depending on the use case.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I want to know more about that. But first of all, so no alpha acids in HopKick. That's pretty cool. So no added bitterness. Even when you add something like Incognito and Spectrum, you may not be adding a lot of bitterness, but you are still adding bitterness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about the history then of water-based extracts, just sort of generally. How did y'all come up with this idea? And also, how long did it take to develop?
So there's a very limited history of water-based extracts, Cade. I think on the last show, 102, we had one example there. It was 1832, give or take, where a crazy guy in Germany made a stew out of hops and boiled it to pre-isomerize all the alpha acids. And that was hops and water boiled to crap. Unlike that, in the modern world, where there are things like food scientists, the inspiration came from looking at the broader industry. The hop industry, the brewing industry is insular, and it's focused on the Rhine-Heizgebot in traditional use cases, but we are outstripped in funds for all sorts of research compared to the rest of the food industry. So looking at what flavor houses do, looking at what modern food companies like Pepsi, Frito-Lay do to produce extracts, produce flavors and things like that, gave us a lot of information on how to produce something different, something unique, something new for the brewing industry. And that's where HopKick came into play when we started working on it. I think it was about 7 years ago was when the product was first proposed. And then it was just a series of experiments working with different processing technologies until we found something that fit.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, making sure that the sensory components are good too, right? Making sure it actually, tastes, smells good, and tastes like hops.
Oh, absolutely. That's the most critical component. Why would we sell a product that doesn't make beer better? I'm a consumer first, Cade, not a scientist.
And a sensory person first too, right? And not just a chemist. Yeah, it can have the same compounds, but does it taste the same, right? We always talk about that. But yeah, okay, interesting. And again, you guys were targeting this sort of not necessarily beer adjacent, but brewers are doing other things in the brew house, right? Today they're not just making Reinheitsgebot beer. They're making hop waters and they're making seltzers and all kinds of other products.
100%. Yeah. And so this is our way of, or at least one of our ways of trying to keep up with the trend of innovation. And so as brewers try new things and extending those taproom sessions with different beverages to prolong as we're trying to bring people back into the taproom after the COVID and the downturn of all of that, this is another way for people to be creative. They can use it in different ways, but still create tasty beverages that have that hop character.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's jump into what is HopKick. Like from the website, it says it's a 100% hop-derived aqueous extract that's clear, flowable, and completely soluble in cold side beverage operations.
Well, I agree 100% with that statement because I'm pretty sure I wrote it.
Perfect.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, but I mean, essentially, that is what it is. It's hops and waters in a proprietary patented process that we have used to create HopKick.
Okay, so then a little chemistry question. So hop aromatics essentially come from the essential oils in beer in hops, right? They come from the essential oils. And one thing we know is that oil and water don't mix very well, right? Without some sort of an emulsifier like, can make mayonnaise or something or a salad dressing. But how do you get those compounds from the essential oils to become soluble in water?
Well, objection there, counselor. I think there's some issues with your reasoning there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So oil and water don't mix. We know that. But essential oils don't necessarily have, those, they don't actually have lipids in them. And so there is an issue where we're talking about the underlying chemistry where some compounds are more hydrophobic or hydrophilic than others. Some are water soluble, some aren't. And because of that, you can manipulate the actual material that you're working with to improve the solubility of compounds by changing their density, by changing a number of things without using something like an emulsifier or a carrier like propylene glycol or ethanol. Because of the patented process that we're talking about, it strips out and spreads out all of the droplets of these semi-polar and polar compounds so that as nano droplets, they will just integrate into the beverage itself without any assistance from a new carrier or an emulsifier like gum acacia or anything like that.
Yeah, so there's not an emulsifier in this product then?
Nope, 100% hops and water.
100% hops and water. Awesome. That's pretty amazing. So again, I understand that the process is patented, but I think what you said there is what you said, I think, was the application, right? Whenever it's used in beer, those those particles are spreading out and then becoming soluble in the beer. Is that similar to how it's made? And again, I'm not asking you to get into any like weeds or proprietary secrets, but are you also just, how are you stripping out like alpha acids and things like that? Because alpha acids, aren't crazy soluble in water, but they are soluble.
Because podcasts are a very visual medium, Cade, as you know, whatever you just said set off fireworks in Zoom. You have your visual emoji cue going on. So we're both very distracted by that. Wonderful, wonderful thing.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I wish the listeners could see the fireworks going. I don't know. How did that happen? Did I just I don't know.
Yeah, alpha acids, and for some reason that caused fireworks, which
fireworks
I don't disagree with.
Very cool. Well, unfortunately, we can't make fireworks shoot off during the podcast. But I was I even forgot the question I was asking. Oh, I was asking about like you were talking about how the compounds are dispersed in beer or in hop water or whatever solution's being used in. But is that essentially the same process? Like, how do you get the alpha acids and stuff like that out of these compounds?
So it is patented.
Yeah.
And there's a number of elements to that patent with regard to how HopKick is made. And there's a thermal element and there's a shear element. And And so what that means is the product is heated in a certain way, the base material, and it's spun in a certain way where the water pulls out a lot of those hydrophobic compounds, which includes alpha acid and beta acid. Because they're thick and globule and hate water, it'll pull all of that material out as the product spins itself. And because of that spinning, it also causes the droplets of essential oils to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so therefore it becomes suspended in that water on its own.
I see. Yeah. Interesting. So those things like we talk about all the time is like terpenes and sesquiterpenes and all that sort of stuff, which are, very non-soluble in water and beer. Those things, because of their size, because they're made smaller and smaller, they actually disperse well in water.
Yeah. They're forced to. They don't congregate as hydrophobic compounds, creating larger and larger droplets that then come out very quickly. It's not like when you make a vinaigrette at home and you shake it up and oh, look, it's mixed up. And then 10 minutes later, it's separated.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's separated. And so that's one of the questions I was going to ask then too about HopKick. It doesn't separate like in the bottle, does it? It all just stays in solution?
For the most part, we do recommend on the bottle that you shake the bottle before you use it. Just because if it's just been sitting there on the shelf for long enough, you might see a little bit of a separation, but not into the way of like that olive oil and vinegar. It's not that extreme. So if you just give the bottle a little shake before using it, that is one of our recommendations.
Yeah. The dispersion is highly stable, but because there's nothing else there, no ethanol, no hydrocolloids or anything like that, eventually there is some creaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which makes sense, and I think even the CO2 extracts have a little bit of that as well too. So because if I remember correctly, that same instruction exists on the CO2 extracts. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So there were a couple of other things in that statement that we talked about from the website. 100% hop-derived aqueous extract, clear, flowable, and completely soluble in cold side beverage operations. There's a couple of things to unpack there. First of all, clear. Really? That's amazing. Because the CO2 extracts are really anything but clear. They look like, gooey hop liquid.
Yeah. I mean, if you just, you could definitely do this. If you are just have a bottle of HopKick and you pour it into a clear glass, it will be clear. They're like, depending on the variety, there might be a tiny bit of like turbidity or like kind of cloudiness, but for the most part, it looks like water.
That's amazing. So that application that you were talking about, like putting it into hop water, right? If you used like a CO2 extract or something, first of all, you'd have a little bit of an issue getting it to actually go into solution. But second of all, you might actually see some color differences, and depending on how much you use.
That's correct. But with this, you don't. So, you could have a glass of water and a glass of HopKick next to each other and not really be able to tell the difference. And then you could pour one into the other and it's going to look similar.
And it looks the same. Yeah, because I have seen that too. Like there's some other products that I've seen out there that are claimed to be water soluble. They do create this like cloudy, hazy experience. It's like milky whenever it gets poured into. So that's pretty cool that it's actually clear and usable in that way. And of course, the other thing was flowable. And I mentioned earlier my own experience with some of those like Flex that it can be sticky and gooey. And if you get it on your shoes, it's impossible to get off. I know from personal experience, so don't spill it on your shoes. But it's flowable, and I would guess if I spilt HopKick on my shoes, that might wash off actually pretty easier.
As someone who has definitely spilt several HopKicks onto my shoes and pants and other items as I've experimented with it, yes, it does come out. It is fine.
Okay, good.
Or the bad old days when we were creating the prototypes and hand bottling it off of the equipment.
Also that.
Oh yeah. You'll wash it off your shoes. The smell won't go away, but you'll wash it off.
Yeah, that's good. At least it doesn't create the stain or something that the other extracts do. And then the last thing you mentioned was on there, or the last thing that's on that statement is completely soluble. Completely. Feels like a big word, right? I mean, Jeff, from a legal perspective, completely is that has meaning.
It does have meaning, but that's one of those things where this is very, very basic food chemistry. It's the principle of food chemistry where, based on the way that we make it, it disperses into fully water-based solutions. Whether it's water or beer with a small amount of alcohol or liquor that's high alcohol, based on the way that it's produced, it will disperse.
Yeah.
And we have literally put it in almost every beverage and type of beverage that we can think of. So when he's saying high alcohol, we have put it in straight vodka and gin, and like,
Those
so
were great.
And it does, it does do things in hard alcohol as well. So we have tried the gambit of beverages with HopKick, and Jeff likes to say it makes everything better.
Nice.
Yeah, I believe I infringe on certain IP by saying I put that shit on everything.
Yeah, I like it. I wonder if it would make Frank's better too. I don't know. That's an interesting. Yeah, or like even like Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper's now 24th flavor, HopKick. Anyway, so cool. So it is completely soluble in these solutions, and that is a little bit different from the CO2 extracts, because sometimes those CO2 extracts sit on the top, right? Especially like if you're adding something into the fermenter and you don't have any sort of mixing ability, that stuff can just sometimes sit on the top of the fermenter. And so this is a key, I think, benefit that brewers would be looking for with respect to HopKick.
Yeah, exactly. And so, part of the design and the intention for these to go into some of that beyond beer is that we wanted it to be able to just basically pour right in and you'd be good to go for the most part with minimal mixing and things like that, because it really just does kind of, like Jeff said, completely disperse within the beverage.
That's cool. Yeah.
So when you're making things like seltzers and waters and teas, we are very mindful of the fact that brewers want that to be really simple, really easy, really cost effective to make those things. And so this product is one of the easiest ways to get that hop character while doing very little other than like tipping it into a container.
Yeah. And you also mentioned too somewhere on the website this term clean label. And so I wanted to ask, I think that's one of the things that you're kind of leading to here is, what does that mean? What does clean label mean? And how does HopKick fit that description?
So clean label doesn't have a regulatory definition like through the FDA or anything like that. But generally as a principle, it means as few or no additives as possible. So basically on the label, you should know what everything is. You can pronounce it. It's that sort of public sentiment. So in this case, it's just water and hops. Therefore, it's clean label. Unlike other products out there that are water dispersible, made of hop oil, they're using things like gum acacia or modified dextrins and things like that, and therefore inherently aren't clean label.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
And so like, because of HopKick and like Jeff said, that it's just hops and water. If you are a brewer and you're adding this into your beverage, you can just label it hops. So you don't have to spell out any of the other things, because there aren't any other things. There's just hops.
Yeah, hops and water, right? Which is already in there. You already have both of those things in your beer, so it's already on your label. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's an important thing, because as brewers move into non-beer space, there's a huge risk from a regulatory perspective. When you start moving outside of beer, it's no longer TTB. It's under the FDA. So you have to have ingredient panels, you have to have nutritional facts and things like that. And so this product makes it as easy as possible. You don't have to do the research on, what's the acceptable level of, gum ester according to the FIDS sheet that you have to submit to this part of the government, and therefore where do we list it on our ingredient panel and things like that. This is just hops and water.
Those are like considerations I hadn't even thought about, right? I mean, I just think like, hop water, hops and water, and then put that on the tap, for people that are DDs or just want something refreshing to drink between beers, but wow, yeah, you've really got to think about that stuff. You've got to think about nutritional labels and all the requirements that the FDA imposes suddenly.
Yep, exactly. And we don't want to make a problem for any of our potential customers by giving them some complex ingredient that's a little iffy on the regulations front.
Nice. Okay, so that clean label component then also is super beneficial to brewers, in that this gives them the ability to just put hops and water on the label. So like if you're making a hop water, that is great, right? You just put hop and water and your ingredients are the same, and you can use HopKick to adjust that flavor. So another thing that you guys have on your website, and this is an important question that I wanted to ask about, like, different varieties of hops and if that makes different hop kicks. So on the website, you say it's variety specific and true to type. So two questions. One, that's pretty cool that you can make it variety specific, so you can add specific varieties for HopKick. But two, how do you make sure it's actually true to type? Like, how do you make sure it tastes and smells like a hop would?
Hey, you know what I do for a living, right?
This is the softball question for you. This is the easy one.
You finally gave me a softball, and I'm so appreciative of it. It's variety specific because it's 100% FTNS from the natural source. So when we say it's Citra, it's not just that it smells like Citra, it's specifically made from Citra. Then we also say that it's 100% true to type because of all the work that we do here at Haas, with our harvest intake panel, the quality and sensory evaluations that go into the resulting pellets and other hop products. We validate every batch to make sure that, yes, this smells like Citra should, this smells like Mosaic should, this smells like El Dorado should. And we do that through evaluation of the meat product itself, but also dosing into multiple beverages to ensure that the product on every batch is true to type.
Yeah, so it's sensory, but it's all, and chemistry and all of the work that you guys are doing to make sure that that's actually true to type. But the key there too is that Citra, right? It's made from Citra. If it says Citra HopKick, it's Citra, and that's where everything is coming from. And then one of the things too that you say is no vegetative material, and so that's also similar to the extracts, right? None of the vegetative material makes it in. So this is a liquid extract that can just be dumped into the beer. It's not going to soak up any beer or anything like that, which I'm assuming is going to help with yield, which we'll talk about in a minute.
So yes, it does help with yield because obviously you're just adding, it's not, like you said, it's not soaking up or absorbing any volume of liquid. And then also with no vegetative material, there's no issue of hop creep with HopKick.
Cool. That's fun. That makes sense, right? If you add HopKick to it, there's not going to be any additional fermentation from hop creep. You're not adding any of that enzyme material or anything. You're just adding, the components of it that add flavor. All right. Last question before we take a break. Oh no, 2 questions. Sorry, there was one. And Jeff mentioned this last time we were talking about sustainability. We were talking about hops in the future, right? So there is a sustainability component to using products like, HopKick, and not just water-based, but also the CO2 extracts as well. So tell me about that, the sustainability component of using these products.
Well, for all extracts, there's the extended shelf life component. When hops are whole cone, there's a lot of fluffy material that opens up the hop and the essential oils to oxygen for oxidation. When you process that into pellets, it makes that oxygen ingress and oxidation more difficult. When you turn that into a ultra-low water activity extract like Incognito or something like that, it preserves the quality of the alpha and the quality of the essential oils nearly infinitely from different perspectives. And so that means you can store your hops forever. You can produce less and you can hold on to them in a refrigerated condition until you need them. It's also smaller packaging. You don't have to ship a bale, which is 200 pounds of whole cone, or a carton, which is 40 kilograms. You can ship a tin that's 1 kilogram. And so that has far-reaching effects when it comes to the supply chain and sustainability there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, and especially in a time whenever, hop growers or where there's a hop supply, oversupply, and hop growers, have been asked to remove hops from fields and stuff like that. I mean, this is a product that helps the entire industry, right? It helps brewers, it helps hop growers, it helps hop distributors like you. And that makes sense from a sustainability component, right? You can use these products and tell a story even. So if you're telling a story about clean label, no vegetative material, hops, water, you can also add the sustainability piece to it as well. And then the last question I wanted to ask before we go to the break is, how did you guys come up with the name?
Well, this is pre-me. So HopKick had started as a project before I ever got to Haas. And then it kind of got tossed to the back burner for a little while. And then it got restarted when I came, and it had pretty much already had that name. So Jeff, I'll pass to you because I don't know how it originated.
Like all great things, it was by committee. There were a number of great potential names. This was not my preferred one. But the concept was a name has to be evocative of the intention of the product itself. And HopKick provides a hoppy kick. And so that's where the name came from, as silly and basic as that sounds. That's the that's where it came from.
No, I mean, I think it works, right? It's a little shot of hop. It's like, here you go. It's a little hop kick, right? Hop shots are a different thing, but it's a little kick of hops. And again, I think it makes sense in that, like, I keep saying beer adjacent, but it's not really beer adjacent, but it's that seltzer and hop water space is nice, because then it adds just a little hop kick, right, in those products that may not otherwise have hops as a huge component to them, right? Like hop water is hops and water, but it's not like, you're dry hopping a whole bunch of hops in there and then serving that, or maybe you are, but that's one of those challenges that you come up with hop water. And that's kind of where HopKick makes a lot of sense. Well, okay, let's take a break, and then we're going to look at how to brew with HopKick. We'll talk about dosing, when to use it, all that stuff, applications right after this. One of the biggest improvements to my brewing practices was the upgrade to stainless steel, and Delta Brewing Systems offers some of the lowest prices on high-quality stainless gear, like the Firm Tank, which holds 8 gallons or 30 liters of wort, comes with a domed lid to reduce the chances of a messy blow-off, and it can hold up to 4 psi of pressure. Delta Brewing Systems also has their own line of brew kettles, as well as one of the lowest-priced all-in-one electric brew systems out there, and their prices are remarkably affordable. If you're in the market for legit stainless gear that won't break the bank, you've got to check out deltabrewingsystems.com. We all know that designing recipes is really fun, and doing it well is so much easier with good software. We at Brewlosophy recently made the switch to Brewfather, and honestly, y'all, we could not be happier. Brewfather utilizes the latest technology to bring you the most robust cloud-based recipe design software that can be accessed anywhere, on your phone, tablet, desktop, and even offline. It also works seamlessly with numerous third-party devices to make it easier to monitor every step of your brew. I know change can be difficult, but trust me when I say you need to go to brewfather.app today to try it out for yourself. That's brewfather.app.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We're proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music. And we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
I've said many times that one of the reasons I love the brewing industry is innovation. It seems like every day someone is coming up with something new. And so Jeff and Shay, from the supplier side, the folks that are responsible, you guys are the folks that are responsible for being ahead of the innovations. This has to be exciting and kind of also terrifying at the same time, coming out with products like this.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's been an opportunity to create an entire new platform, look at new ways with new technologies and how they can actually work with hops. But when you innovate, you're out there on your own. There's not a proven market or anything like that. So that you're absolutely right. It's a little terrifying to invest a lot into a new product like this without any sort of, we're just going after a competitor to make something that's the same thing, which really isn't innovation.
And it was terrifying. We fought for this product really hard. Because, there wasn't a lot of proof in the pudding, if you will, that hop waters were going to become as big as they are, right? And that it's a growing market. But the team that was behind HopKick, we really, really believed in it. We thought it was a super excellent product. And so we really pushed for our company to move forward with it, even though it was a little bit scary of an investment at the time. So it is now paying off in spades. It is a great product and people are really liking it. But it is terrifying to be on that forefront and making the educated guess of what's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, especially as we start talking about use of this product. I mean, I think the use of this just seems like so easy for brewers, right? It seems like this is just the easiest way to make a hop water. And heck, if you can sell a hop water for $2 or $3 or even more than that, I mean, I don't know how much hop water sells for at breweries, but if you can sell it for $2 or $3, using some CO2 water and HopKick, I mean, dang, there's certainly a value proposition there. But I don't want to talk too much about that without letting you guys talk about it. So let's talk brewing. Let's talk use of HopKick. So how do you use it? What's it supposed to do? And does it do it?
We think so. Yeah, as far as we know, it does do what it's supposed to do. So yeah, how do we brew with it? So like I've mentioned, it's not really designed for those big, heavy IPAs. So if you're adding it into something that's already very complex and has a lot going on in it, you probably aren't going to get the bang for your buck. But if you're using different matrices like hop waters or seltzers or teas or lemonades, kombuchas, that's where you'll really see this product shine. So that's where that hop kickiness comes in. And what's really cool about the product is it's kind of a spectrum of how it acts. So if you are on the really low end of the dose rate for HopKick, you can get this more naturalizing of flavors. Say you already have a flavor in your kombucha or you already have a flavor in your lemonade and you want it to just be a little bit more holistic. HopKick can really help round those out and diminish some of those artificial sweetness type flavors. And then as you move along the scale, you can get some other like modulation effects at the medium side of things. And then once you're at the full high end of the dosing range, you can really get that true to type hop in your face punchiness. So it's a really versatile product depending on what you want to do with it. And I think that's what makes it really cool and really exciting is that like the sky's kind of the limit on like if you just want to use a tiny bit of it and what your goals are versus like I just want to punch it up and I want pure Citra in your face, we can make that happen too.
So tell me about that naturalizing effect. That's pretty interesting. So you said it kind of like naturalizes some like artificial flavors that might otherwise be in the product.
The caveat is that this is all anecdotal. We don't have proof that this actually happens because it's a sensory.
Yeah.
So Jeff will say there's absolutely proof because he's a sensory man, and I'll let him touch on that. But we did do a bunch of trials with different beverages that are currently on the market that use either an artificial flavor or some sort of natural sugar that's a replacement, or things like monk fruit or what is that other one?
Stevia,
things like that. And when we added HopKick into those beverages to try to see what would happen, you could compare them side by side and it would kind of reduce that like sugary sweetness, that like very specific artificial sugar taste.
Yeah.
It would reduce that down and then really round out the existing flavor of the beverage. And so we passed to Jeff for the real proof of it.
The thing is, I drink a lot of energy drinks. And because I'm trying to watch my girlish figure, I do these zero sugar ones. And so like the white monster that all 30-something white males drink isn't particularly great. It's full of stevia and aspartame K and those sorts of intensive sweeteners. But there's a metallic, there's this harshness to it. And when I dosed in HopKick, when we were making some prototypes, like, oh, holy shit, this tastes like it was sweetened with cane sugar now. That's where that idea came from. And we've done a lot of bench tops where we validated this. We've done full sensory panels where there's been elements of this, but it's all based on the use case. And we do have customers that use this. We have customers that use this to reduce the harsh bitterness in their CBD-based seltzers that uses a crude hemp-based extract. This is one of the main reasons that they use it, is to add some more complex, hoppy sort of flavor to it while cutting that bitterness that would make the water otherwise unappealing.
Huh. That's really amazing because this is sort of a nuance, right? This is a nuanced application of this product. It's not like you said, at the high end you've got punchy, hop in your face levels, but this is a nuanced application. So this is something where if you are adding something like a sweetener, to your hop water to sort of balance it out or make it a little bit more palatable or pleasing, or even like you said, a lemonade or a kombucha or something, in other beverage arenas, this is really cool. So this essentially works like a reduction of that artificial flavor. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about stevia, because I'm not a huge fan of stevia, anything that's got stevia in it, because it has that like intensely artificial sweet taste, that metallic-y kind of like baking powder or baking soda taste.
Yeah, and so we talked about that basic taste modulation there for bitterness and things like that. The other side of it is when there's a beverage, whether it's a lemonade or what have you, that has a different artificial or natural flavor in there, where even the best from the natural source, orange extracts still don't smell or taste right. I know people that make, a lemonade type light beer where they're using 10 different lemon-based products to try and get the right lemon flavor. Because, again, chemistry, however you're doing the extraction, you're going to get different results based on the technology, based on the chemistry involved. And so you end up with 8 different products trying to layer back those bits and bobs together to get the right true to lemon character. What we're talking about here is, well, get rid of like 4 of those different lemons and put in HopKick. And because of its native complexity from the 400 or 500 different compounds that are in hops, it'll fill in those gaps and you'll get closer to the flavor that you're looking for with less steps involved, with less products involved.
Yeah.
And so we're simplifying the supply chain there too.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, because I think about like a beer that we brewed at Blue Owl in Austin, which was a very high selling beer. We used both an extract, like a lime extract, and then also lime zest, right, to try to mimic that flavor. The lime zest added some flavor, but we didn't add as much of that like lime flavor that we wanted. But the zest did add that like rounding, sort of natural note to it. So it's interesting. Like if you're trying to add like a hop, you can add this product even maybe with just a lime extract and make it, rounded. I mean, because lime zest was difficult to procure and
the consistency, because it's also an agricultural product, the way it's dried, the way it's processed, everything. Yeah. There are issues there. And honestly, the thing that we're talking about here, where it's lime plus hops, this is teasing the next episode, folks. That's where we go into talking about euphorics. So
yeah, that's totally right. This is teasing the next episode for euphorics. And so we've mentioned several times, right? Like the range. There's a dosing range of HopKick. So at the low range, it's got this kind of like nuanced. It'll still add hop aroma, but it's more nuanced, and it sort of balances those artificial sweeteners, or that artificial sweetener, artificial extract type taste. But then on the high end, we're hitting, punch in the face hop character. What's the actual range that we're talking about here? So what are the like proper dosage amounts for using this product?
That's a tricky question also, because it's highly dependent on what you're using it in. So I mean, just by nature of the different matrices being more or less complex, your range is really going to vary. So if you look at our TDS and stuff like that, you'll see a pretty diverse range. It could be as low as like 0.2%. But then again, we also have people who are using it at 2%.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's really dependent on what type of beverage you're making and what flavor outcome that you're specifically seeking.
So then maybe a better question I should ask, and I probably should start asking this just in the future when I talk about dosage rates, is like, how do you figure out how much to use then? Like, what are some strategies for figuring out like where I want to be in that range?
Well, I mean, benchtop work is a great way to do that, or call us at Brewing Solutions at johnihaas.com. It's brewing.solutions@johnihaas.com, and we can help you kind of formulate like what you're trying to do and what type of beverage you're making, and give you kind of a place to start and see what you think. But really, the more complex that your matrix is, and that if you're trying to get a really hoppy flavor, you're probably going to need the higher end of the dose rate. If you're doing something really simple, like a hop water, that's the only flavor in it, you could probably go quite a bit lower. So it really just depends on your use case. And so where you start, you kind of have to have an idea of like, what is the beverage I'm making and what are the flavor outcomes I'm looking for? And then once you kind of know those, we can give you a good place to start.
Nice. Okay. So that's well, I don't know if you have this on hand, but if I were trying to make like a hop water, for example, is there like a suggested amount you would suggest we start with in like a hop water matrix?
Yeah, so that's actually also on our usage guidelines and stuff like that, found at johnihaas.com. We actually created a little table that kind of gives recommended guidelines for waters and teas, NA beers, and other, like, so there's different recommendations for different beer matrices.
Now, last year at CBC, we ran out of our hop water. What was the use rate for that? It was 0.3%.
It was, it was around 0.3.
Yeah.
But this year, the guys have really started to really like HopKick more and more. And so they keep punching up the flavor. And so I think the hop water at CBC this year, that was on tap at our other station, was 0.6%.
Okay. But still, 0.6% is not a whole lot whenever you're talking about, adding that. That's cool. Okay. So you mentioned also that it's variety dependent, right? So it's variety. They're sold in variety by variety. Let's say aliquots. I don't know. Units. Yeah, that was a real scientific way of saying it, right? Bottles. There we go. That's right.
Proud of you, buddy.
Woo! All right, I made it. But so they're sold in different varieties. Can you mix the product? Can you blend together different varieties and create more complex hop flavors?
Absolutely. Yeah. So and then kind of as you would find with those hop varieties itself, like if you really want a really intense Centennial flavor, you're probably going to need a little bit more Centennial, just because Centennial is not as punchy of a hop as a Citra hop, right? I mean, as you would with brewing, you would use more or less to get the same sort of effect, just because Citra is a stronger hop in those ways than Centennial would be. It's very similar to that translates over to the HopKick as well. So, but mixing and matching works just like you would with any other type of hop bill recipe. The one that we had this year's CBC was a Citra and Mosaic, and that went over really well. And then it works well with other products too. And not to keep harping on the Euphorics episode, but we also at CBC had a hoppy hydrator beverage that was an electrolyte beverage that used HopKick with the euphoric. So even those products play well together as well.
Oh my goodness. That sounds amazing. Yeah. Like an electrolyte beverage with hops and euphorics, like HopKick and euphorics.
There's blue glitter in everything. It was perfect for Las Vegas.
It was, yes. I finally convinced Virgil to add blue glitter into a beverage.
He almost retired, but he relented.
So. Yeah, I was going to say, everything was real happy about that.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah. So cool. So you can blend it. And I guess we should also mention the varieties it's currently available. So it's Citra, Centennial, Eldorado, and Mosaic currently available for HopKick. Do you guys have plans to expand that to more varieties?
Evil chuckling, yes. One of the great things is that we're always innovating and always looking. We are going to do a run here in the near future of Galaxy. Have to make sure it works and everything like that. It's still prototype stage, but we're looking at that really heavily. And for anyone that wants a flavor, brewing.solutions@johnihaas.com. Let us know. And if you want a lot of it, we can probably make any variety that you want work.
Nice.
With some caveats, we have found that there are very select few hops that the HopKick doesn't translate quite as well as others. So, but within pretty much, there's only been a handful of those out of like several, like dozens of varieties we've tried.
Yeah, chemistry is going to chemistry. So there's some things that even with the unique extraction that we do,
the
magic, just not everything comes through. Sabro, with the parameters that we were looking at, it didn't bring out that huge coconut character. And as you all know, every time we do these episodes, I end with saying buy more Sabro. In this case, Sabro just didn't work.
Didn't work with HopKick. No, because that's what I was thinking. One, I was thinking pineapple for maybe like Talus, and then coconut, because those are flavors that I love having those flavors. And I love those two hops for that reason.
Yeah. If we can free up some R&D time, I'd like to revisit those because there's just a lot of operating parameters. But we're always plugging along here in the innovation side, so there just hasn't been time to go back to those varieties and try again.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to those whenever they get released. But yeah, like I said, again, for right now, Centennial, Citra, Eldorado, and Mosaic. Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier, we talked about yield, and we talked about for CO2 extracts, that's sort of a big benefit, at least as compared to pellets and cones. So how does HopKick fare in regard to yield? I would guess like as compared to pellets and cones, but maybe also as compared to CO2 extracts.
Well, comparing directly to a CO2 extract would be kind of an apples to oranges situations. But I mean, again, with pellets and cones, though, it's absolutely a yield increase because with HopKick, there isn't that vegetative material. There's no absorption of any of the liquid, whether that's water or beer or hard seltzer or what have you. There's no of that absorption. With HopKick, since it is just a liquid, you are just adding in the liquid. And so like I guess if you technically look at it, you're a tiny bit yield increased because you're adding something on top of to what you already have.
Sure. I guess that's true, right? You're adding water and flavor to it. So you got a higher yield. You changed your volume. That's true. Okay. And so like in terms of like hop water, for example, there's a lot of different ways that brewers do that, whether it's like, just like running, circulating water over hops, or putting hops into, a fermenter or a bright tank and filling it up with water and then bubbling CO2 through, or whatever, a bunch of different methods for making those hop waters. So this seems like it would also solve a lot of those issues too, right? Like you don't have to deal with or set a fermenter or kegs or bright tanks or anything like that aside to then, put a whole bunch of hops in and deal with getting those hops out again. You just use the HopKick, add it directly to maybe even your finished vessel, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. We have had people do a blend. Sometimes they like using part like an enhanced pellet or T90s in addition to HopKick. We've also had people make their hop water by using a little bit of incognito and like heating up water, putting in a little bit of incognito, and then cooling it down and finishing off with a HopKick. So brewers are going to brewer, and there's no one right way to make one of these beverages, but there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's no real wrong way. But the method that you choose will determine your yield and what you get out, and also how lazy you're feeling that day. So if you are a lazy brewer and you don't really want to do all those multi-steps, then yeah, HopKick is going to be your easiest, simple solution.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the tap room, right? When you need a hop water on tap, and it takes a long time to like extract out the hops, or you don't want to deal with cleaning the fermenter or all that. It seems like it'd be really nice to just like have some half barrels, fill them up with water, pump some CO2 in there, and drop some HopKick in, and then boom, you've got hop water in 15 minutes.
Yep. Yeah. And you can be even lazier than that, Cade. Yeah. You can just have sparkling water, and you can have HopKick or something like that in a little spray bottle. Oh, yeah. Spray it into the glass, pour water on top, and you have a hop water.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's now it's an experiential thing. Here's your little eyedropper of HopKick, and you add as much as you want. Here's the sparkling water. Just go for it. That's cool.
We've had people use it as like cocktail bitters. So we have people who that are bartenders that want just a couple of bottles of HopKick on the bar to add to their cocktails as they're making those. The spray bottle thing, you can build your own HopKick hop water, pretty much as you were just saying. And so, yeah, I mean, you can really be as lazy as you want with this product, but it does make good beverages, lazy or not.
Nice. Yeah, of course. Like you said, brewers are going to brew it, right? There's some people that are going to go crazy with it, and some people are going to just make it easy, right? As easy as they can. Okay. So one of the questions then I want to ask always, especially like with the CO2 extracts, we mentioned one of the challenges of using those is sometimes they don't mix in as well. Sometimes they're sticky. Sometimes they're hard to get off, buckets or things like that. Are there any common pitfalls with using HopKick? Like, do brewers call you up and say, hey, this isn't working, help me? And if so, what are those problems, and how do you fix them?
Yes, absolutely. I would say one of the most common ones is pH and adjusting your pH to get the effect that you want. So, you really want a nice low kind of tart pH, depending on what salts you're using, different things like that. That will affect how the HopKick is perceived and things like that. So that's an adjustment that if you're not quite getting what you want exactly, maybe take a look at your salts, or if you have more or less acid, things like that is definitely a big one. And then process is a big one. Don't add HopKick to boiling water, because that's not going to work for you. It is designed for the cold side. It needs to be added to a cold solution. If you add it to something that's steaming hot, you're probably not going to get something that you like, or really have much taste at that point after you volatilized everything off. So those are definitely common ones. So like process, pH, and just use of the product is those are the most common ones that we get questions on, I would say. Jeff, do you think there's anything else?
Just the common pitfalls that come with using any flavor products. If you put it into any sort of tank and you just bubble a lot of gas through it and don't allow that gas to escape, then it's going to carry the flavor with it. So make sure you're adding it into a contained closed process, like when you're carving, and then it's going to go into packaging. Don't blow off the expensive flavor that you're trying to make your beer better with.
Right, exactly. Don't bubble off the flavor. Right, pulling it out with CO2. Because I guess that makes sense, right? These compounds, since they are CO2 extractable, if you're blowing CO2 through them, then they could potentially be extracted out if you're not capturing the CO2, right? But if the CO2 is just staying in, like for example, if you had a bright tank and you just dosed some HopKick, filled it up with water, and then carbonated it in the bright tank, you'd be good to go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And we've also had people, do it even further where they already carved up the beer and then they just use, like a keg or something to just a brink to shoot the HopKick into the already carbonated, so that you aren't even blowing it off at that point. It's the last thing before packaging, and so that nothing is escaping.
Yeah, exactly. Last thing before packaging, dose it at that point. And then, Jeff, I have to ask this question. Do smoke compounds get taken up in preparation of HopKick? Do those make it in the beer? Have you guys made a HopKick with a smoky lot of hops?
Maybe.
Okay. Can't say right now, but maybe I can get it out of you in August at WBC. Maybe. All right. Well, what about then if I add too much? What if I add too much of the HopKick and I'm like, oh my God, this is overwhelming? Your
financial controller is going to be mad at you.
That's true too. Yeah. But I guess it's just a dilution issue, right? Just add more water, and then
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is then you just increased the volume of what you were making, because you can dilute it back down. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a hop burn type situation the same way that you're talking about, like too much spectrum.
Yeah.
It doesn't do the same thing. It's just going to be like very HopKicky.
Okay.
You'll get some hop burps out of it, but not gonna hurt you.
But yeah, exactly. The thing that's easy is almost always, especially if it's a water or something like that, you can just dilute it back down to the rate that you wanted.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just the CO2 causing the hop burps. That's all that is, right? But okay, so then we ended last episode talking about the future, and we've already talked a little bit about, I think, what the next, at least what the next episode will be about when we talk about liquid hop products. But what's next in the world of hops, hop products, or water-based extracts?
Future's so bright, you got to wear shades, Cade. This is the direction that we're going. We've got high flavor liquid products that are going to extend yield, extend shelf life, and we're just going to continue down that track. It's about, especially in this market, finding ways for brewers to make high quality, good tasting beer that sells as efficiently and effectively as possible. We're all in this together, so if there's something we can do to add hop flavor into lagers to speed along the process so there's less residence time or what have you, that's the direction that we're going to go, because we want to help our customers make better beer.
Ultimately, we try to answer the problems that our brewers are having, right? So if you guys have a problem or there's some sort of problem that you want solved in some sort of hop way, or if there's a beverage larger looming issue, tell us, and that way we can start working on solutions for that issue. And so really, we want you guys to guide the future also. So we want to help answer what those problems are.
Okay, and then tease Euphorics before we go.
It's the greatest thing since HopKick.
Okay, I guess it's literally the next product.
It's 100% natural botanical extracts mixed with hop extracts in order to produce a highly, highly concentrated flavor. So we're talking here about an effective dose rate for HopKick of 0.3 to 0.6%. For Euphorics, we're talking about 0.003 to 0.006%.
Wow.
So think about it this way. Instead of 300 to 600 milliliters per barrel, which is mixing units, and I hate it, but that's the brewing industry, we're talking about 3 to 6 milliliters per barrel.
Okay, yeah, so it's like 100 times more concentrated. That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, wow, so it's super concentrated. Is it also water-based? Or a mix? You said it was a mix.
Well, so there's botanical extracts and hop extracts, and then it's carried with water. Yeah.
Carried with water. Oh, interesting. Cool. Well, I'm excited to talk about the next episode then and talk about euphorics and the use of that. Well, wait, one more question about euphorics. Is it like brewing focused, or is it more like, again, hop water, seltzer, kombucha, tea, lemonade?
So the thing about HopKick is that it works great in normal beer. It's not economical. Because of that dilution factor, it's just not economical. You can use it in highly flavored IPAs and nuance it, or even make it super explosively flavorful. You just have to use a lot of it in that case. That's not the case with euphorics. Euphorics is literally made for everything. You can make those big 10.5%, 19.2 ounce triple IPAs that you see at the grocery store for $3. Uh-huh. Thank God. You can make it using very little of the euphorics. You can go and make waters. You can make kombuchas. You can use it in ciders, energy drinks, everything in between.
Okay. Awesome. Super concentrated hop flavor with other botanicals in it as well too, but to give you that flavor that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll get into this more, but I would say the main difference between the two is that HopKick is variety specific and euphorics is flavor forward.
Nice.
So
okay.
there is a little bit of a difference, and the intention and the purpose for each one is slightly different.
Yeah. Makes
one
sense.
One is mosaic and one is guava.
Yeah, exactly, right. One of them is trying to match a hop and a hop flavor, and the other one is like, intensely tropical, or like you said, guava. Any of those flavor-specific notes that you're looking for to up your beer flavor.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. All right. You guys should both be prepared for this, since you know that this is the question I ask on every show. And I've asked Jeff this now like half a dozen times, but Shay, I've asked you this before. Let's make Jeff go first, because he should have been more prepared than Shay. If you want brewers to take away just one thing from today's episode, what would it be?
The industry is changing. It's been changing for a couple of years now. This little thing called COVID shook things up. Now, my main answer is buy more Sabra. But the other thing is, there's a hop product for everything. Brewers can and should experiment making new beverages, depending on the regulations in their local, states and blah, 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 blah. Because in a lot of states, you can't be a cidery and a brewery. But everyone should be looking at this. Make things that you think your customers want to drink, and then we'll find you the right product to improve the flavors there. That is what this industry needs right now, is to look a bit more broadly and get back to what craft was focused on. And that was great tasting beverages for everyone, not just 8-pound per barrel IPAs.
Totally. All right, Shay, same question.
Okay. Along those lines, the beverage industry and the craft brewing industry, it's supposed to be fun. So have fun with it, make cool beverages, get back to being creative. There's a lot of things that we can try and just have fun with it. And if you have problems or you need help with it, reach out and we'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining me today and talking about HopKick. This is an exciting one. I'm excited to actually brew with this and see what it does maybe in my next hop water batch. So, Shay, thank you so much for joining me in the Brew Lab, and Jeff, of course, you as well.
Thanks, Cade.
Anytime, man.
All right. Of course, you can check out all those amazing hop products that Haas has to offer by visiting johnihaas.com. And of course, in the show notes, we'll send a link directly to the HopKick page, so you can check that out and maybe use it in your next hop water. Next week, Jordan and I will be back applying the science of this episode, and we'll see y'all then. The Brew Lab is a production of Brewlosophy, where they who drink beer think beer. Don't forget to visit brewlosophy.com to read about our weekly experiments and other brewing adventures, and listen to us talk about it on our other show, the Brewlosophy Podcast. Thanks to all of our sponsors and patrons that help make this show possible. If you'd like to receive a reward for helping us do what we do, visit patreon.com/brewlosophy to see how you can do just that. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back in the Brew Lab with another guest next week. Until then, think beer.